If you want to have work-life balance like an employee when you're self-employed, that definitely does not exist. This post just like hit me in so many different ways. This post is from somebody on LinkedIn that I don't even follow yet. She just came up in my feed. She helps working moms to land their dream job. And she was talking about work-life balance. And, one of our beliefs is work-life balance doesn't exist. It's about work-life harmony. I'm going to read the post and I'll break it down at different points that I either agreed with or struggled with. But she says, I keep hearing people say work-life balance isn't real. And I would agree with that. They're telling me it's some made-up idea expectation that there's no possible way of achieving. Sets up for failure from the beginning. That's true. And honestly, in my IMO. That's bullshit. Balance does not mean your life is split 50-50. It doesn't mean every day feels smooth. It doesn't always feel perfect. It doesn't mean it doesn't change. Balance means that you make an intentional decision about the system, structures, and flow of your everyday life. Well, I agree that it's about intentional decisions, but I don't know if balance is the word. She's saying it means you set boundaries. It means you choose to walk away with something that's no longer serving you. It means saying no. It means carving out the time that you need. Yeah, those are all things within work-life harmony. I don't know if it's necessary balance. So here's the thing that I really would disagree with her on. Balance is not the word I would use. When you think of balancing a scale, there has to be equal weight on both sides of that scale, right? When you balance a chemistry equation, going back to my days of chemistry and my medical background, you had to have the right elements on each side of the equation so that the equation balanced. Otherwise, if there was an imbalance, it would explode. Everybody is interpreting this word very differently. We talk about work-life harmony because it's not about pitting things one against the other. It's not trying to balance a scale. It's not trying to balance an equation. What it's trying to do is be intentional with where you direct your attention over the course of the day, over the course of your week. Yes, I agree that you have to set boundaries and that you have to, as she says, carve out time that you need and walk away from something that's no longer serving you. But those are all things that bring you harmony. They don't bring you balance. If you were to put extra weight on one side of a bridge, what would happen to that bridge? That bridge would collapse. So if you have all of your boundaries and you have all of the time for you and you have all of this stuff sitting on one side of the bridge, the rest of the bridge is going to collapse. It's not going to be able to sustain that because you're causing an imbalance. But at the same time, it's about the distribution of how you go about your day and where you intentionally direct your intentions and your attention. And that's what we mean by work-life harmony. It's this fluidity where you build it into your life based on attention. And here is a very big difference between an employee mindset and people who are self-employed and need to be CEOs of their work and at home. Employees seek work-life balance. They want to clock in from 9 to 5, and after 5, they want nothing to do with that business. They don't want to work extra hours. They don't want to be bothered on the weekend. They don't want to be bothered at night when they're at home. And that does require boundaries. That form of balance does require boundaries. But as someone who is self-employed and trying to build a business and be the CEO at work and home, you can't have balance. It is an impossibility. Yes, you could still set boundaries. Adam and I set boundaries every single day. We know when we're going to go pick up our kids and when we cannot see that client. And then we have times like this, like we record this podcast at 6:30 at night. Everybody else is having dinner, but this is the time that we record it. We record it from 6:30 to 7:30. We do 2 at a time sometimes to make it work. You have to recognize that if you want to have work-life balance like an employee, when you're self-employed, that definitely does not exist. It is about work-life harmony. It's about setting your day with the boundaries so that your attention is driven to those parts of your day. Like working out in the morning. I work out Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 7:30 to 9 o'clock. I'm at the gym. That is my attention and my intention, but the boundary is at 9 o'clock that stops, and then from 9 to 9:30 I have to get ready because our first client is typically at 9:30 in the morning, and then we move to other parts of our day. Balance in a employee mindset is that you're not going to be bothered at night and on the weekends, and ideally As a business owner, as somebody who's self-employed, you're never gonna have that. You're never gonna have that balance. That doesn't exist. It's about what you do according to your attention every single day and what your intention is, where to direct your attention. That post kind of like just got me a little annoyed, but really demonstrated really well the difference between an employee mindset versus someone who is self-employed. And I just thought it was really important to share that with all of you